Evening, Stephen Howson, and today I'm going to talk about transfers, specifically Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It's all over the news that Zlatan Ibrahimovic is very likely to be the first one that Jose Mourinho signs when he is eventually unveiled as the new Manchester United manager. I didn't mean to do a video yesterday. I was absolutely shattered, and I spoke for about, I don't know, 6 hours solid yesterday. Between the lives that we did for Full Time Devils, also on Radio 1, BBC Manchester, BBC Sport, Key 103, Sky, all sorts of places we ended up talking to yesterday when I was outside Old Trafford, waiting for something to broke. I hadn't been home, 10 minutes I don't think, and United released an official statement. Banging, cheers. Zlatan, that's what I was here to talk about, wasn't it? Almost forgot. I don't even know what we're a minute in. Right, so Zlatan seems to be the one that the newspapers have hitched their trailer to. Obviously, there was talk around about a month ago, so something like that, that he wouldn't come if Van Gaal was going to still be manager and all like that. I'm not 100% sure that those was actual genuine quotes from him, but that was the sort of thing that was ended up being leaked. What's Zlatan Ibrahimovic going to bring to Manchester United? Well, I think if you look at our forward line at the moment, and like the assumption that I thought Jose Mourinho was going to be coming back in end of January, early February, I am also making the assumption that I think Wayne Rooney's probably very close to his last game of Manchester United, if not already played it. And I think that leaves us then shallow up front. Rashford's obviously forced himself into the equation and into the squad for next season under Jose Mourinho. I think James Wilson should be given the opportunity to have a run out in the first team, a run out off the bench in the first team. And also, Anthony Martial should be played as the starting number 9 for me. Let's move him inside from the winger. But, and I do mean to explore this, and I'm going to do a video on it, but I have to know Mourinho more first now, because I know Mourinho's played several different formations, although he does seem to favour the 4-2-3-1, which isn't too far off what we've sort of played this year. Maybe slightly different positions with the ball and stuff like that, and slightly different responsibilities with different players. But essentially it's very similar. So if that is the case, if we are going to go 4-2-3-1, then I think I would like to see Martial moved in and someone a little trickier maybe on the left. And we definitely need somebody on the right. So if I was going to look to, I mean, maybe Memphis can be the guy on the left. I think Memphis' career is going to go like one of two ways. It's not just going to bob along doing nothing under Mourinho. It's either going to go kaboom and he's going to love him, he's going to put his arm around him and say all the sort of things that, you know, Van Gaal hasn't said to him this season, or he's going to just instantly dislike him and bin him, and we'll probably be seeing the last of him before Christmas. So what I want to see from Zlatan comes in and you've got 4 choice strikers really. 4 first choice strikers, and that's James Wilson, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial and Zlatan. Martial being your first choice, Zlatan being your impact player, and Rashford and Wilson competing for the 2 rotation spots. Now the problem in terms of development that you've got if you do that, which I'm not necessarily saying this is what I would do, it's what I think will happen. The problem that you've got in terms of development if you do that is only one of them is going to get the shout. One of them will be on the bench every single week, and then they're going to be stifled, because you only develop by playing football, and that's top class football. You don't develop playing under 21s football as soon as you're over 18. You've got to play first class, first team football, and that's why it's been a good move for James Wilson to go out and play in the Championship. Now his goal scoring record isn't as good as Rashford's in the Premier League, but don't compare stats like for a player, because James Wilson for me is a better finisher than Marcus Rashford. 6 months ago, if you'd have said to anybody who watches United's Academy and anybody who's watched United's Academy in the past, Marcus Rashford's a better striker than James Wilson, they'd have laughed in your face. Rashford has put himself into the contention now by what he's done in the first team. James Wilson was never afforded that sort of run in the first team, and he's never going to get that sort of run, I don't think, under Mourinho in the first team, where he's going to play 16, 17 matches in the first team, unless he gets a chance with someone being injured, similar to what Rashford's done, and just starts absolutely banging the goals in, which could happen. What Zlatan is going to bring to Manchester United is an option. FA Cup final on Saturday, we brought Ashley Young off the bench and played him up front, and then when Smalling was sent off, we played him at left back. That's not what should be happening at Manchester United. Now, we let the likes of Van Persie, Chicharito, and even Falcao leave last season. Every single one of them would have been a better option off the bench. Every single one. Can you imagine, like, Marcus Rashford goes down, you're like, sweet, Chico, on you come. You probably wouldn't have even seen Marcus Rashford last season if one of those had still been at the club, in all honesty. But if we had had the option, it'd have been so different. I'd have actually rather seen us bring Giggs off the bench than Ashley Young to play up front. I mean, we bring Ashley Young on to play up front when, you know, he is technically a left winger, and we've got a centre forward playing left wing and a shit left winger playing up front, and then he moves him to left back. Like, maddening decisions. But anyway, that wouldn't happen with Zlatan. Zlatan being the option off the bench. How I see Zlatan being used, I see him being used possibly in the big games. Possibly. The way Mourinho likes to set it up as being very compact. But I also am massively conflicted in that, because I think he may use him in the smaller games. So it's just going to remains to be seen. I think the possibilities that you can use Zlatan for is you can use him in the big games to be the focal point of the attack and not lose the ball, and look to bring in somebody. So you could probably play Marshall on the left with Zlatan as the focal point. Zlatan's not going to lose the ball. He's a big dude. He's going to bring the ball in, and he's going to find the right pass as Marshall makes a run at an angle into the box, and he's going to lay him off, and that's going to work a treat. I would rather see Marshall as the focal point of the attack most games, but I think that's one option, one way that you can utilise Zlatan. Another way that you can utilise him is you could just utilise him as a bully, as a focal point against the smaller teams, and have him just bang loads of goals in, because we've seen what he's done in France this year. He can definitely do that for Manchester United next season. And it'll also be interesting, if you need to see a game out, I think Zlatan's an excellent option for that. He's a communicator on the pitch, he's an organiser on the pitch, and I think if you bring him on with the last 20, the West Ham game doesn't happen or doesn't go down the way it did, the second to last league game, I don't think we lose from being up if you have a better leader on the pitch. And I actually think if you'd have had someone like Schweinsteiger on the pitch at the time as well, that wouldn't have gone down the same way. That's what we're lacking at the club, and that's why I like Zlatan as a signing, because we are lacking characters, to quote Brendan Rodgers. We are lacking leaders, and we are lacking just sheer all-out nutcases. Now, there's been a rumour that sort of sparked up yesterday, and I've not even looked into it. I've not even looked into it because it's come out of left field. And I actually think I saw someone mention that Rui Ferrara, is it? I'm not sure how you pronounce the name, is actually going to be Mourinho's assistant. But there was a rumour yesterday that Roy Keane was going to come and either be part of the coaching staff or Mourinho's number 2. And I don't think it would work, and I don't think it would happen, but I would fucking love it if it did. What's United lacked since Fergie left? We've lacked the fear factor, we've lacked the arrogance, and we've lacked that... what's the word I'm looking for? The level of expectation, the sheer demand that we achieve. That's sort of lacked. We've made excuses for failure in the last 3 years. We've accepted defeat sometimes, or we've accepted things that weren't good enough. Roy Keane and Jose Mourinho and Zlatan Ibrahimovic are 3 characters that will not accept mediocrity. I don't know what Mourinho's team talks are like. I believe they're very meticulous in their planning and the build-up, and he does actually change his style of play to suit whatever team he's playing. Very pragmatic in the big games, and a bit of a flat-track bully in the smaller games. It's not the United way. I'm open-minded to see how it goes down. What's going to happen in those team talks, though, or at half-time, when you're 1-0 down, 0-0, something like that at Old Trafford, is Roy Keane's going to say some dark shit to you, basically. From what I've heard Keane was like in training as a player, and some of the things that he's done. I did an evening with Dwight York at Red Square, And Dwight York spoke about some of the things Keano would say in the dressing room when he was at Sunderland. And he seems like an actual nutcase. An actual nutcase. And I think Mourinho, with a snarling dog of an assistant like Roy Keane, it's potentially a match made in heaven. It's also potentially a match made in hell. But either way, it's not boring, is it? It's absolutely not boring. There's no boring in that whatsoever. There's only entertainment value. And we go to football to be entertained, don't we? So I would be all in favour of that. Just like, you know, there was people throwing suggestions out today, like, what about Eric Cantona? If Eric Cantona came in as manager, would you accept it? Like, fucking yeah, I would. What if we lost? I wouldn't care. Because I would be so entertained by the press conferences and so entertained by his antics on the touchline. And I think the team would play attractive football to try and win. But it'd be entertaining, wouldn't it? And I would take it for a couple of years just to have that sort of fun every single week. Because you know Cantona's not ever sending a team out to lose. In a way, I could see Cantona's teams being very much like Kevin Keegan's, absolutely full of passion, 4-3 games left, right and centre. They win heavily, they lose heavily, all sorts of shit. So that's basically the top and bottom of it, isn't it? So Zlatan Ibrahimovic, free transfer, pay him what he wants. Just pay him what he wants. We've got no transfer fee going on there, so let's do it. I then think that we probably need to find another centre mid. Carrick going. Question marks over whether Herrera's good enough to play in a midfield 2. I think he's good enough to play in a midfield 3. But I think he's got his option of playing is probably going to be in the midfield 2, the deeper 2. And he's not really excelled there. So I think we have to probably look to someone better. I like Schneiderlin. I think Schneiderlin's a great footballer. And I think Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger, when they're paired together, is a good combination. But Schweinsteiger's never fit. And for some reason this season, Schneiderlin was hardly ever played. So we need to find somebody else in that engine room. Now, maybe Timothy Fosu-Mensah can step up. But going into a season, expecting a guy who's played, 4, 5, 6 games, is going to just do it for you, is madness. He can be the backup, and he can come in and he can surprise people. But I wouldn't want to go into a season expecting and putting that sort of pressure on an 18-year-old who's not got a dozen games under his belt. So I definitely think we need a centre mid. And I haven't identified anybody that I think is definitely the one that could do it, except for Kante. Kante's the sort of energy, the sort of graft, the sort of just dogged determination that I'd like to see from a midfielder. Someone just a little bit more dynamic. I could see Mourinho liking him. Whether it's going to happen, don't know. We haven't heard of any sort of rumours that United are interested. By the sounds of it, Arsenal are interested. And that's a great signing for Arsenal, so that's a problem. I would rather we pipped Arsenal and got that, because that's really what you want in it. I think we need a right midfield. I nearly said Minger then. Midfielder and winger. We need a winger or a midfielder, right mid. So the obvious ones is Kante, James Rodriguez. Sorry, not Kante. Mahrez, James Rodriguez. Players like that. Players that can fulfill that sort of right-sided, tricky sort of style of play. Someone who's going to get to the byline, bang a crossing, cut inside, take shots. Someone who's going to be a creative outlet and also a threat. Someone when you look at the team sheet, you go, we'll have to keep him quiet, aren't we? Because there's so few of that in the United side at the moment. So few players where you go, we need to keep him quiet or we're in for a long night. I think those are the two that stand out to me, but I think I could probably do with doing a little bit of research. And I'm going to do a few videos. I'm going to do like maybe a top 5 targets for each of the positions that we need. And I'm going to include goalkeeper on that list as well, because I'm not convinced that this is all completely settled. I think there's still something in that. The defence, Daley Blind's done excellent this season. Chris Smalling's done excellent this season. But I think if we had a real good, commanding, experienced centre-half, then I will be looking forward to us attacking with a bit more guile. Because I think half the reason why Louis van Gaal's side defended as a team and therefore struggled to be able to break quickly and attack with any sort of fluidity and freedom is because we had our defensive duties in our head. And I think, despite the fact that on paper we had a fantastic defence, I think you've got to look towards how the team set up and how the team played, and the fact that we had 70-80% possession most games. So the way we set up was to protect the defence and to protect the goalkeeper. And I think with a better centre-half, a more commanding centre-half, then we wouldn't need to do that. And I think that would help us attack a little bit more. So I'm going to identify a couple of centre-halves. And, you know, I like Ashley Williams. And some people need to just get that top 4 club mentality out of him, because Ashley Williams is a hell of a defender. Go and do a bit of research and watch him before you start commenting Ashley Williams is shit, because Ashley Williams is a hell of a defender. I also like Swede. I think he's a fantastic defender. That's the sort of experienced player. He's an international. He's a great age. I think he's 27, 28, 29, something along there. He's in the perfect sort of bracket for a player that we want. People are saying Varane and this, that, and the other. Yeah, do you know what? It looks great. But we've so much potential in our side that the balance is off a little bit. And if you sign even more potential, I don't think you can really achieve too much. I think you've got to get a couple of players at the right age. And do you know what? Mourinho was excellent at doing that sort of thing. And he does buy players for the here and now. And I mentioned on Twitter today, or yesterday, he doesn't have an amazing record with signings, and that's because he doesn't have an amazing record. He's got some absolute stinkers. He's got a couple of good signings on his plate, but a guy spent nearly $1 billion on transfers, so I would expect him to have a couple of good ones, but he's also got a lot of flops as well. And with every manager and every club, around about 50% of signings aren't going to work out for you. So we need to have a really good window and expect whoever we bring in, 50% of them aren't going to do what we want them to do. So this talk that he's got 200 million to spend, I would love to see him spend a lot. I'm sure everyone's going to be crying if we do, but it still wouldn't scratch the surface of what we spent on Glazer's debt. So fuck it, get it spent. That'll do for today, I think. Stick it in the comments who you want to see us signing, what players you think are going to go, because I'm probably going to do a video on that as well, I think, because I really think there's something in the Rooney to China thing. Let's wait and see if that turns out to be accurate. So bang it in the comments who you think you want to sign, who you want to see go. Don't know if we're doing a video tomorrow because I'm busy. I'm out on the piss in London and I've got to travel down there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, so I don't think I'll get time to do anything. But if I do, I will. And I'll probably see you on Thursday. Laters.